Foos, it's episode 285. Welcome back, and thank you for joining us once again for another solo episode of the Foo Bar Show program. But first, September 9th, I will be at Highbrow Pub in Upland, California. September 16th, I'll be at the Mamba in Huntington Beach, California. That was originally supposed to be on September 2nd. That got moved over to the 16th. September 23rd at Harley Davidson in Westminster, California. September 24th at Escape Craft Brewery in Redlands. October 1st at Hennessy's Tavern in Laguna Beach, California. And October 8th at the Canyon Inn in Yorba Linda, California. For more information and the rest of the show dates for 2022, please go to thefallenelectric.com or click on the link at foobarshow.com. And if you haven't yet, go to your music app and play our latest single, Circles. It's been getting well received by the people and playlist curators, and we couldn't be happier for it. So thanks again for that. Lastly, Grass Store, everybody! Among the best cannabis delivery services around, if not the best, Foos. They're fast, reliable, and responsive. Everything I want and need from my weed person. Go to foobarshow.com, then click on the Grass Store banner, and first-time users get 30% off of their purchase. And now, episode 285. Here we go. Filthy Martini Studios in Ontario, California, it's the Foo Bar Show! Hey, what is up, everyone? I am Joe C, and thank you all very much for listening into the Foo Bar Show. Remember to hit subscribe and be sure to rate, review, and tell a friend like a champ. You can also listen in and get our swag at foobarshow.com. That's FOObarshow.com, and follow FOO Bar Show on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Join in, drop us a line, and we'll foo it up like a couple of foos. Ain't that right, Foos? Well, yeah, it's just me. It's just me today. No Josh, no Steph, definitely no Foo. Am I right? He hasn't been on for months. But I'm doing this today because, and it's late, by the way. I know that this usually goes up on like around midnight every Monday, but I'll explain myself, man. I've had a particularly busy last few days in that I took a few days off. It was Metalhead Nelson. He's been on the show before. Metalhead Nelson had his wedding on Thursday. And for shits and or giggles, I also took Friday off. We went to an Incubus, Sublime with Rome, and an Aqua Dolls show on Saturday. And that was over at 5 Point, over in Irvine, which was right where Irvine Meadows used to be. If anybody remembers going to Irvine Meadows, they used to have this cool amphitheater. It was on a hill, so there was a cool like area for a lawn seating where everybody could just pretty much sit down and bring blankets and picnic and shit like that. Every single experience over at Irvine Meadows, which was most recently known as, I think, the Verizon Wireless Amphitheater, there was always fires. There's always people setting fires to mosh pits that were going. I think the last time that I was there was with Steph. We went to a K-Rock Weenie Roast, which is a thing of the past. They don't do that anymore. And Metallica was one of the headliners. I forget what year this was. But, of course, there was a fire, many fires that sprouted throughout those sets. The very first concert I ever went to was at that Verizon Wireless Amphitheater, a.k.a. Irvine Meadows. And that was a show that System of a Down headlined. And Jack Johnson opened up that entire event, too. So it was pretty eclectic. But nonetheless, fires. People love to set fires and mosh or chant or dance around them. Drugs. Everybody was on fucking drugs. And so they tore that down. I guess the last I heard of it was that they were going to build like apartments or condos or something like that. The place was pretty fucking iconic, yet absolutely nobody defended the fact that they were going to tear that shit down. But I guess what appeased everybody was the fact that they were going to be building that 5 Point amphitheater right next to it, which is cool. I guess there's no lawn area because it's not on a hill. It's not perched up on a hill or set up in that way. But it's just bleachers. So everybody who is in attendance gets a seat, unless, of course, you're in the pit. But I found it to be pretty cool. I don't know. It was no Irvine Meadows, but I thought it was nice. And it was right there. Yeah, if you're in Irvine, it's right next to Wild Rivers. It's kind of like a raging water. It's a water park that's open every summer. And anyway, so that was our Saturday. Incubus was pretty awesome. Sublime with Rome killed it. The Aqua Dolls were first time seeing them, first time hearing their music. They played a few covers. In fact, I think a lot of what I heard was covers. Maybe that's just what they do. I really didn't look into them. Nonetheless, I thought they were pretty good. I think they're an all-girl band. I didn't even pay attention to who was in the band. I was just listening, and they were really good. I encourage everybody to go check them out and follow up with me on that. But Sublime with Rome, of course, R.I.P. Bradley. Rome has really taken that band over for good, I think. And it's not even like the only original Sublime member is the bassist. The drummer left. Everybody's gone. I think the Dalmatian is long dead by now. But I think that's Sublime has really given their legacy to Rome, and he's really kind of been running with it for the better part of the last decade, I think. Sublime with Rome has been really going on for a while, and I'm digging it, man. Whatever excuse that to go to a good Sublime concert where all Sublime songs are being played very well and is endorsed by Sublime is fine in my book. And Brandon Boyd of Incubus was on a stool because apparently he hurt his leg. And I remember the last time that we saw Incubus, I forget what year it was probably around like 10 years ago, was when we saw them. Steph and I went to the Hollywood Bowl, and we saw them, and I think he had just torn his Achilles back then and was also on a stool. So I will never see this man on 2 feet play a show. He just needs to stop hurting himself. Speaking of, there's no real updates in the music highlights today for Zach De La Rocha's condition. Another guy who tore his Achilles. But I understand that they'll full speed ahead on his recovery. So I'm looking forward to seeing him in Arizona with Rage Against the Machine in February. And then on Sunday, I had to play a show. I had to prepare for the show. A lot goes into preparing for a Fallen Electric show. Not if you ask the other members of the band, though. They do what they do, and they do it well. But from the technical perspective, I've kind of taken that on for the better part of this year, for the last few years. But for 2022, for those who listen, have known that the Fallen Electric is looking for a bass player. We lost our bass player in January. I think it was like mid-January, where we had a little bit of a spat. And if I'm being honest, and I'm gonna be real honest, we pushed him out. He quit, but we pushed him out. It just wasn't working out, at least for me. I'm sure the guys in the band would have been able to tolerate it, but there's something about not contributing creatively, not contributing your muscle when it's time to pack up or set up, arriving late habitually, but still claiming that you care and that you want to be there and that it hurts your feelings when you're not included. That just, I don't really have a whole lot of patience for it. So we started pushing him. I started pushing him out, and then finally he snapped and he quit, which was one of the best days of my life. Now, being in other bands, I've known that, when a key member of the band, now by all means, and I'm not saying that he was not a good bass player. On the contrary, he is the best bass player I have ever worked with in my entire life. So this was, to replace him is not going to be an easy feat. The only, and all the great bass players that I know are currently in other bands, so it's in poor form to try to poach them. And so, in no way am I saying that he wasn't a great bass player, but it's not going to be easy, man. In all the bands that I've been a part of, whenever a key member or any member leaves the band, it just renders the rest of the band useless. It like you can't recover from that, and thus, you know, you try to rehearse, you try to maybe book a few shows out in the future, maybe 3-4 months ahead, so that you can hope to have enough time to get a new member, learn a 45-minute set, and then take off from there. It's particularly harder for us in the Fallen Electric because not only do we do original music, and we have a hefty amount of it, at least an hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours by now of material, but we play these 4-hour shows. We just played one last night, Sunday, over at Perks in Huntington Beach, California, the oldest bar in Huntington Beach, right there on Main Street. If you walk out and you look to the left, you'll see water, and it won't take a long walk before you actually touch the water. But we played Perks. That was fun. And I got to say, you know, if I hadn't produced the bass parts that currently pump through our bass amp right now, I don't know where we'd be. I think the band would be broken up and probably pursuing other ventures. So knowing that if that the bands that I've been a part of, the motivation comes to a screeching halt when a member leaves and they tend to break up. Knowing this, I said, fuck that. That's not going to happen. What I did was, and this was a little bit of an evolutionary process because I had no idea what I was doing. I'm recording this on GarageBand, everybody. This whole podcast is done on GarageBand. This is all I really know as far as a producer or sound audio production. From a studio perspective, I don't really know what the fuck I'm doing. At least back in January, I didn't. Now I've kind of forced myself to learn a few things that have made me what they call dangerous. So I plugged in my bass, or my friend Jimmy's bass that I borrowed, into an interface that I have here, and I just started recording all of the bass parts to all of the songs that we do, and it wasn't easy, man. Not only did I have to learn and or relearn some of these bass parts, I know what they do, I know what they are, but I've never had to actually play them. So not only did I have to learn every song, you know, I had to go in and record them. And so I laid those tracks down. I, you know, gave it the appropriate effects that they had to take. Anyway, long story short, I got greedy, and I also added vocals to it. So I was also pumping in vocals, backup vocals that our previous bass player was singing into the bass amp, and it was just a split. Like I was, and then because of this, if we need to be together, all together on the same track, we all need to go on a metronome or a click track. So I was separating the click track to the left on a stereo channel, and the bass and the vocals were going in to the right. So, and then the right one was connecting into the bass amp. The left one was connecting into our ears for our ear monitors. It was okay. It got us by for a few months. So we even did a small festival out in Corona with that method. And speaking with some people who know more about this kind of thing, they told me to get the Scarlett interface. It's a red little box, and it separates a few channels out. So now I got even more greedy. I started incorporating synths, organs, pianos, keyboards, a bunch of other samples, and I'm splitting it all up now. It's a whole thing. It's a whole freaking production. And because we're all on a metronome, because we're all on this click track that's going in our ears, and only the band is hearing this, but we're so tight now because of it. I've also synced up music videos that are being shown at our shows, and some visualizers when we play our original songs that don't yet have music videos. And so last night, I mean, it was probably the best it's ever been when it comes to our visuals, how we sound. Everything was super blended in, and the heads are turning, man. The heads are turning, and it's exciting. And I gotta say that losing our bass player was probably one of the best things that ever happened to the band. As shitty as that may sound, it's true. It's the absolute truth. And it was a blessing in disguise, you know, because when he quit, we didn't know what we were going to do. And here we are in August of 2020, just 7 months later, thriving. And we're going to take our time finding a bass player. We've auditioned a few folks. It's difficult, man. Sometimes you just want to, if you find a good bass player, you just kind of want to settle just to get this over with. We currently rehearsing with this guy who's only been in the U.S. for like 6 months. He's from Belarus, so he speaks Belarusian. Is that how you say that language? I guess so, right? They're right next to Russia. They used to be part of the Soviet Union, but he escaped. That's how he calls it. He escaped Belarus. He was in rock bands out there, pretty popular rock bands, I guess, because the pictures that I'm seeing from Instagram, a huge crowd, like this stage, huge crowd. Anyway, he said he escaped Belarus because that particular police state, well, now that Putin's gotten his mitts on that kind of region there, the police have been cracking down on rock music, or at least music that can be considered, I guess, violent or just non-traditional. And so I guess he wants to pursue his passion. He made his way over to Mexico first. That was probably an easier ticket to get. And then he made his way up through Tijuana. And then now he's over in Hollywood. And we rehearse out of Upland, California. It's over by Ontario, California. And if you know where that is, it's right as you enter the Inland Empire. It's not close to Hollywood at all. And I don't know that we want to waste this dude's time. He's very talented, but I don't think he's gelling with the band right now. But that's what we're currently going through right now. We do have it open for other auditions, and we're going to take our time. We're going to be picky, not only because we want this person to be the right fit. We want this person to also be easy on the eyes. Somebody who's talented would be an absolute plus. But for now, we're doing okay. We're doing okay with the recordings that I'm pumping through the laptop. It forced me to purchase Logic Pro. If you're into audio production, that's one of it looks exactly like GarageBand, but it just has a lot more bells and whistles on a professional level. Like, you know, Pro Tools is something that everybody knows from the last couple decades that people use for professional audio recording. So it's kind of like that. And anyway, if you happen to know a bassist, please send them our way. You have our information, and we'll test them out. We'll see what's up, man. And it's not just one rehearsal. It's not just one audition. You know, we want to give this person maybe 2 or 3 or 4 rehearsals, because we don't expect them to be at 100%, you know, on their first day in. Maybe they're a little nervous too. So, yeah, but I think we're just going to keep looking for now. But that was Sunday. Sunday was mighty fun. I didn't get home till about maybe 4 a.m. So, the reason it takes me a long time to prep for a show is because I have to put together the set list. I have to not only do that, but the visuals. I have to sync all that up, and exporting these files takes forever. So I told Steph, let's just not do a pod. I'll do one tomorrow, just when I wake up. It's about noon right now on Monday, so I realize this is already late. And if you care so much, I encourage you to go just look at a mirror and evaluate where you are in life right now. But let's see, what do we got going on today? We've got some Geeking Out, we've got music, and stick around until after the outro. I'm actually going to premiere a couple of the tracks that The Fallen Electric has recorded as of late. Nothing that has been released, nothing that I've ever shown anybody until just now. So stick around till the end, fast forward to the end, do whatever the hell you want. But let's just get started with Geeking Out, shall we?
Okay, nerds, let's go!
Well, Foos, this is probably going to be a little short geeking out, but a couple things that caught my eye in the last couple days. There's some news coming out for the Fantastic Four movie. And I guess, it's not a great thing, but even though everybody wants this to happen, but it looks like John Krasinski is probably not going to be Mr. Fantastic again. I know we just saw him in the most recent Doctor Strange movie, and I think it was just good fanfare, but we got to remember this is an alternate universe Mr. Fantastic, so it was nice to see him in the role. We kind of got a taste for it, but it's likely not going to happen. There's been some drips of information over the Marvel's first family over the years, and now that we actually have a release date, and a director is now in the talks. A third incarnation of the Fantastic Four movie seems to actually finally be happening. And so everything that we need to know is in an article that I read. I think it was on Polygon just this morning. When is Fantastic Four gonna come out? Now, it was announced in the 2022 San Diego Comic-Con that it will kick off phase 6 of the MCU on November 8th, 2024. So we still got a couple of years to go. Who's going to be directing? In 2020, Marvel studio head Kevin Feige announced Spider-Man's Homecoming. John Watts would be helming that movie, but then in April 2022, Watts stepped down, taking a break from superhero movies. As of August 26th, WandaVision and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia director Matt Shakman was in talks to direct the movie, but I don't know. I guess at the time, everybody thought that Steven Spielberg might be taking the job. I don't know why. Has Spielberg done a superhero movie or at least a comic book movie? I think so. Maybe. I don't know. Doubt it. Indiana Jones, was that a comic book before it came out? Wait, was that George Lucas? Steven Spielberg probably produced it. I don't fucking know what I'm talking about. But anyway, who's been cast? We don't know. Nobody's at least officially been cast. But there's rumors that if you guys watch You, or she's also in the Gossip Girl show, Penn Badgley, I'm probably saying that wrong, Penn Badgley, she keeps coming up in these rumors. Betting sites have tabulated odds on which actors seem most likely to be cast, and she's definitely one of them. For Reed Richards, some of those rumors include John David Washington and Dan Stevens, while Zac Efron and Anthony Ramos lead the odds for Johnny Storm. Wouldn't hate seeing Zac Efron in that. I think he could do a pretty good job on that. It seems like it would come easy for him to play kind of like that douchey, big-headed kind of guy. For Sue Storm, Lily James and Samara Weaving seem like popular choices. But I even when John Krasinski was still a legit front runner, Emily Blunt was also up there. Stephen Graham and Dean Norris are top picks for The Thing. So if any of these names sound familiar, you look them up. I think that they would be good choices for those roles. We just don't know who's going to get picked yet. And we do know who's not going to be in the movie. It's going to be Chris Evans, Michael B. Jordan, both of whom played Johnny Storm as the Human Torch. And they play different characters in the MCU presently, so it's likely not gonna work out unless it's kind of like another universe. But at this point, I think the fans want some kind of continuity that would all belong to the same world or same universe. And that's the thing that I'm curious about, what they're going to do with Blade, because Blade took part in its own kind of world. It's part of the Marvel universe, and at a certain point, he does partner up with a lot of the characters that we know and love. But the things that are happening in the government, that secret society of vampires, and that there's vampires that are all over the world. You don't really hear about that happening when you talk about Captain America or anything like that, because it's supposed to be taking place in another world, according to Josh and company. But I don't know, man. John Krasinski, I think, would still play a pretty badass Reed Richards. Wouldn't be mad if he ended up playing the role. Since he's doing a lot of action movies, too, you would think, this is the role that he has been preparing, and his wife, Emily Blunt. I think they knock it out of the park. But who knows? We'll see what happens. As long as they don't fuck it up like Fox did in their release back in 2015. Feige has revealed that this reboot would not be an origin story, which is interesting. And, they did it with Spider-Man. We never saw Uncle Ben die in his movies. They don't even bother mentioning Uncle Ben in this iteration of Spider-Man, specifically in the latest movie where they brought in Tobey and Andrew Garfield, and they had Uncle Bens. Their Uncle Bens died on screen, but I don't think that this Aunt May ever had an Uncle Ben, or at least maybe they divorced or he died of natural causes. Who the hell knows? But it looks like it's just going to be skewed a little bit so that it can fit into, and they might end up doing that with a lot of this stuff. I'm getting the sense that they're just going to try to finagle very cleverly your X-Men, your other characters that have belonged to Fox, and while Disney and the MCU never really had rights to these characters. But we've had Fantastic Four movies in the past. Apparently there was one in 1994 that was never released. That one probably sucked. And in 2005, we got a version. That's the one that we know of with Jessica Alba, Chris Evans, which got a sequel in 2007 with the Silver Surfer. I enjoyed those. I think they were okay for their time. They didn't really... they weren't great, but I got the same vibes that I got from those original X-Men movies. They were good for what they were. We finally got a live-action X-Men movie. We finally got a live-action Fantastic Four movie. But it did not possess the quality and the budgets that we're seeing from Disney and the Marvel MCU. So we'll see what happens with that. More to come. And moving on. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Kevin Smith's movie Tusk. Came out a few years ago. It was actually not more than a few years now. It's like it came out in 2014. It was an absolutely insane and nightmarishly horrifying tale of it kind of goes along the lines of I was gonna say the human centipede because of South Park, but the human centipede, where like an unsuspecting victim goes to a dude's house, probably seeking asylum or assistance, and then just gets trapped in there and turned into, in this case, a large centipede by connecting, ass to mouth, just a chain of people. But anyway, Tusk, same idea, but this person gets turned into a walrus. For example, I think if I remember correctly in the movie, the mad scientist removes Justin Long. It's Justin Long is the protagonist in this movie. He removes his legs, takes the bone of the leg out, and then files it down to produce two big tusks that he then attaches to where the canines would be on a human mouth, and then just rearranges different body parts and stretches skin out to create a walrus. Very bizarre. I thought it was an interesting thing that Kevin Smith did, but Kevin Smith kind of has been doing these crazy and off the wall kind of concepts. Haley Joel Osment is in that movie. Genesis Rodriguez was also in there. They were, I guess, for his best friends that eventually end up finding him and then saving him. But by then he's already turned into a walrus. And then at the end of the movie, they put him in a zoo, which I thought was very fucked up. But anyway, what I'm getting at is that it looks like they're going to be doing a sequel to this. Now, the guy who played the mad scientist, Michael Park, he has since passed away. He was also on another movie that Kevin Smith did called Red State. Very good actor, man. It's surprising, and we've probably seen him in other movies, but he hasn't been that kind of like front center character protagonist, at least not until Kevin Smith made him that in his movies. So if you're a fan of Kevin Smith movies, you know who Michael Park is. And like I said, he just recently passed away a few years ago. And so who's going to play the mad scientist? So in talking with Justin Long in an interview, he said that it seems as if they're going to play it off as in like a copycat mad scientist that falls into the same habits that this other older guy was doing to people, turning them into animals, in this case a walrus. And that's going to give us a sequel, and it seems like it's a cash grab, but let's see. And if I'm honest, is any Kevin Smith movie a real cash grab? I think it's just paying his bills. But if you're a Kevin Smith fan, go for it, man. I am. I like Kevin Smith movies just because they're so unorthodox sometimes, and it's just kind of like he still embodies that indie perspective of filmmaking. So a lot of practical effects, a lot of just stupid shit going on in the background, a lot of fanfare for those who enjoy Kevin Smith. It's almost like if one of us created movies and did shit like that, we would probably do something like along the lines of what Kevin Smith has created throughout the decades. So anyway, enough about that. Lastly, I wanted to talk about something I know nothing about, but Josh and Steph are raving about Sandman. I haven't had the pleasure of checking out Sandman. Now, these guys tell me that I would enjoy the shit out of it. I'm not a big fan of fantasy. For those who listen to the show, will know that I'm lukewarm on Lord of the Rings. Game of Thrones, except for that last episode that got everybody pissed off. It was one of the funniest days in my life because I was in a room full of Game of Thrones fans that were watching that finale for the very first time, and just seeing the disappointment just wash over everyone's faces made me so happy. But what an awful fucking last show. But anyway, and there's another one now. House of Fuck-Ups, House of Dragons, House of Dragon. Is that what it is? I'm sure Josh and Steph would talk about that with more excitement. But anyway, not this guy. But I'm not into it, man. Not into fantasy as much as maybe I should be. I think, as I alluded to in a previous episode, Josh pointed out, but you liked Harry Potter. But I think I liked Harry Potter because it took place in kind of like a present day modern world where there was still, the microchip has at least been invented. There's cell phones and shit like that. Or there's cars. I don't know. When was Harry Potter supposed to take place? Maybe like in the 60s because of the cars that they were using? I have no clue. But at least it had that kind of modern perspective towards it, that modern spin, whereas that old Englishy kind of way of talking, that just turns me the hell off. But anyway, talking about the Sandman, Neil Gaiman, it's not that. I don't think there's dragons in there. I need to watch it, but it's finally been adapted. People are loving it, but it wasn't always the first time that somebody attempted to turn his works into like an actual movie or TV series. Back in the 90s, Wild Wild West and A Star is Born producer John Peters sent Gaiman a script for the Sandman movie, and the author told Rolling Stone that it was the worst script that I've ever read by anybody. And he goes on to say, a guy in John Peters' office phoned me up and he said, "So Neil, have you had the chance to read the script we sent you?" And I, Gaiman, said, "Well, yes, I did. I haven't read all of it, but I've read enough." He says, "So pretty good, huh?" And I said, "Well, no, it really isn't. He said, oh, come on. There must have been stuff in here that you loved. And then I said, there was nothing in there that I loved. There was nothing in there that I liked. It was the worst script that I've ever read by anybody. It's not just the worst Sandman script. It was the worst script that I've ever been sent. I'm not sure if it would have been an action movie or quite what it would have been. It was a mess. It never got better than a mess. Detailing the really stupid ideas in Peters' script, he goes on to explain it had giant mechanical spiders in it. Lucifer, Morpheus, and the Corinthian were identical triplets. They were a family of identical brothers, and it was all a race to see who can get the ruby, the helm, and the bag of sand before midnight on 1999, before the new millennium started, because whoever got it would be the winner. That was the plot. So, I mean, I know very little of the plot of the actual works, but this would have been a disaster and a complete bastardization of the works, if you ask me. But in order to kill the movie before it moved any further, Gaiman says that he anonymously leaked the script to the press. He says, I sent this script to Ain't It Cool News, which back then was read by people, and I thought, I wonder what Ain't It Cool News will think of a script that they're going to receive anonymously. And they wrote a fabulous article of how it was the worst script that they've ever been sent. And suddenly the prospect of that film happening just went away. And instead, John Peters turned his attention to Wild Wild West. And then we got that movie, which I think is for the best. Because that plot just sounds awful. And it sounds like he made the right decision. You can't just accept any bad script you read and let someone run with your beloved story. I mean, we just heard that with our last guest, Doug Brody, the author of The Ship, who was on the show recently. And, I think he's playing it right. Of course, you want to get work. You want to be able to receive an income and pay your bills and that kind of thing. But you also want to have some kind of longevity and appreciation for your works, because while it's awesome that you're an author and that you create these things and people can go to a library or a bookstore and pick up your material and consume it in that way, by and large, the great masses will not do that. They'll go see a movie, and you as the author will hope that the directors and the producers and everything that went towards that production is as close to what you had in your brain as you were coming up with that material. And somebody like Doug Brody, who we just spoke with, he's really trying to find the right people to create his works when it comes to putting it up on the big screen, or at least creating a series to put on TV. It's the way to go, man. You want that longevity, so more power to him. And it's a good thing that he did, because right now the Sandman's getting great reviews on Netflix. So I know I say it all the time, go check that out, but I'm gonna take my own advice and I'm actually gonna check this out. And I'll be honest, if I like it, I'll say that I like it. If I hate it, you motherfuckers are gonna hear about it. But anyway, that's gonna do it for Geeking Out today, and I'm gonna tie a bow on this with a little music highlights. Well, Foos, as you all might have heard, for the last few months, we've heard news that Daniel Radcliffe was going to be doing the Weird Al Yankovic movie. And it's supposed to be the story of the life of Weird Al and how he kind of got to where he got today. And it's funny because now that I'm looking at the trailer, which was just recently put out there, it's a parody. It's a parody on Weird Al's life, and nothing could be more perfect and more even meta for them to create a parody of like these kinds of movies, like these biopics. Like we just had the one with Queen. We've had other biopics like the Jim Morrison movie, The Doors. Those kinds of movies were they really kind of they tell the same type of story, or at least the same plot lines exist in every single one of those kinds of movies where like it's the beginning stages of maybe when the person is super young and how they found a muse in something and how they just kind of gravitated towards becoming that performer, and then finally finding the band members and creating the band and going off on this tour and kind of romanticizing the entire process of being a huge superstar. We know that Weird Al never became, I mean, he is a huge superstar, but he's kind of a niche superstar where he does parodies of songs. He rewrites and recreates a song with different lyrics that are either really, really cheesy or just funny. And so the trailer is finally out, and I'm super happy for it being out, and I'm going to play it all 2 minutes and 51 seconds of it, because even though you can't see it, you'll kind of understand where I'm coming from.
Put it in.
A Roku
I'm
original
tired
film.
of people thinking I'm some kind of joke.
Your dad and I agreed it would be best if you just stop being who you are and doing the things you love.
My whole life, all I wanted.
I'm afraid we found your son at a polka party.
Just to make up new words to a song that already exists.
Oh, well, you should do that then.
Ooh, my little hungry one, open up a package of my banana.
Dude, I've got chills.
The untold true story.
Every once in a great while, I can spot a talent that I know is the future of music. But first, we gotta find you a stage name. Al Yankovic. It's long, it's hard to pronounce. So I'm just gonna throw this out there. Weird Al Yankovic. I love it.
Weird Al has taken the world by storm.
Do I know you?
Madonna, I was wondering if you were going to do a parody of my song, Like a Virgin.
I'm curious, is that song autobiographical?
Yes. Except for the fact that I've had a lot of sex.
Name me one creative genius that doesn't have a checkered past involving alcohol
That's the medicine.
and drugs.
I think Madonna's a bad influence on you. What? No offense. I'm a train wreck. My parents wrote me off. I pushed away my band. You're all just a bunch of normals. I'm the weird one. You gotta take care of yourself.
I saw in you something special, an artist who has something to give to the world.
Discover the icon.
Of people watching around the world right now. All I want to say is be as weird as you want to be.
He changed music, literally.
You will never find true happiness, so you can truly accept who you are.
Daniel Radcliffe.
Thank you.
Oh, Al, you can't smoke in here.
He puts the cigarette out on his hand.
I totally deserve that.
So it's out on November 4th, and I'm watching it. It's on the Roku channel, so if you have Roku or have another source that can get it, you can stream it from there on November 4th. So I think it's going to be a pretty cool movie. Now, one of the funnier things, subtly funny things that's going on throughout this trailer is that Daniel Radcliffe is ripped. He has a freaking six-pack. I don't ever think that Weird Al had a six-pack. And I didn't know that him and Madonna were knocking boots, dude. I don't know if there's any truth to that. And if there is, yeah, good on him. Good on him. And if you heard a familiar voice in there, it was Rainn Wilson, Dwight from The Office. And he is Dr. Demento. They don't say this anywhere, and nothing. If you don't know anything about Dr. Demento, there's nothing in the trailer that indicates that that's who he's playing. But that's who he's playing. And I became exposed to Dr. Demento when I was about like maybe 8 years old. Weird Al was already way bigger than Dr. Demento when I was that age. But Dr. Demento was he was also a parody music creator. He had a show, I think, on radio back in the day. When I was in third grade, my elementary school teacher, who I had for third, fourth, and fifth grade, so I had a lot of continuity and a good relationship with my teacher. Back then, he had a library of just books and cassettes, and he's just like, you seem like you like funny stuff. Here's a cassette. He handed me a cassette of Dr. Demento and a lot of the songs and kind of like funny shit that he would create, and I thought it was amazing as an 8-year-old. Of course, I listened back to that now. I was like, that's some cheesy shit, but you would understand why a small child would appreciate that kind of humor. That then dovetailed into, and I think he was a mentor to Weird Al in his early years. And so if you've never heard of Dr. Demento, go on YouTube. He's easy to find. If you've ever heard I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas, he created that. He created a bunch of shit like that. But I'm excited. I'm excited for this Weird Al movie, and I'm going to play a little something by Weird Al off of his Running with Scissors album. It's one of my favorite Weird Al parodies because it takes American Pie, one of the great Americana rock songs that was ever created, and he twists it to relate to the plot of The Phantom Menace, the Star Wars The Phantom Menace. I remember being in the backseat of my neighbor's car. She would normally take me and her grandson to the movie theater. My parents, I think only once in my entire fucking life, twice, took me to the movie theater. And each time my dad was a complete douche about it, would fall asleep, snore, put his feet up on the seat in front of him, almost got us kicked out. Thus, I never, and he probably did it on purpose, so I would never ask again. That was my childhood, and that should give some explanation of why I grew up the way I am. But I would tag along with other families to go to the movie theater because I wanted to go see a fucking movie. I wanted to know what everybody else was talking about in the schoolyard. So anyway, I'm in the backseat of this lady's car. She throws on Radio Disney, and amongst all the boy bands, you get the occasional Weird Al song, and this was like 1998, 1999, and it's got to be 99, I think, because that's when the Star Wars movie had just come out, and so everybody had an understanding of the Phantom Menace and the plot. So when I heard this song come out on the radio, I was like, this is one of the best things I've ever heard. I think I've only heard of American Pie, the song. I knew the melody to it, but when I thought that this was that. I thought that this song, The Saga Begins, was the American Pie song, which is originally sung by Don McLean. I thought that this Weird Al Yankovic version was the version, but nonetheless, later on, I found out that that wasn't the case. But a really, really, really good adaptation to the lyrics of American Pie. So here we are, The Saga Begins by Weird Al. So even though this is the song's almost 10 years old, it's really nothing else that has really hit the mainstream when it comes to My Chemical Romance. You know, when we think of My Chemical Romance, we think of shit that came out of the Black Parade and things that surround that era of their fame. And it just seems like they're killing it, man. Let's see. There's more to this article here. They kicked off their run of live dates in mid-May at the Eden Project in Cornwall, marking their first UK show in 11 years. In a 5-star review, the magazine NME said, they're now safely one of the biggest rock groups to emerge in the last 20 years, but if the band are worried about their newfound status, they don't show it. Tonight's show is fearless, loose, and raw. It genuinely feels like anything can happen as My Chemical Romance channel punk rebellion and playful ambition. See the band's remaining U.S. tour dates, which will see them supported by a huge list of acts, including Turnstile, Taking Back Sunday, The Lemon Twigs, and many more. So, yeah, I'm gonna go check them out over at in Las Vegas in October. The weekend before Halloween is when they're gonna have the first show for When We Were Young Fest, which seems like it's gonna be very much like the Vans Warped Tour, where it's all gonna happen in one day. I think it's gonna be like from 11 to 11, and in that 12-hour span you're going to get a shitload of bands. In the middle of the entire fairgrounds is where you're going to see a list of the bands playing at which stage, and you just pick a stage depending on the time and the level of curiosity or the level of love that you have for a particular act. So I hope that they don't do me dirty and put like 2 awesome bands that I really want to go see at the same time, and then I just have to make that tough decision. But anyway, that's that, and that's gonna do it for the music highlights and the show. Thank you everybody who stuck around to the end here to listen to good old Joe C do a solo episode. Next week, come on back. We're gonna have Steph, we're gonna have Josh, and we'll see if we have the Foo. It's Labor Day weekend. We'll try to see if we can get him out of the house. We'll find something to get him out of the house. We'll say there's pie and punch. I'm sure that'll do the trick. And so, like I said at the beginning of the show, everybody stick around till after the outro here and listen to a couple of the songs that we just recorded. And we've been playing them live for the last few months, and we've been working them out in front of crowds and kind of gauging reactions, and we've been kind of piecing little things together, changing a few things, and now they're actually recorded, and it's going to be a few months until we actually release them to the masses. But if you're a listener to the show, you get this nice little treat. So, and as always, thank y'all very much for listening into the Foo Bar Show. Remember to hit subscribe and be sure to rate, review, and tell a friend like a freaking champion. You can also listen in and get our swag at FooBarShow.com. That's FOOBarshow.com, and follow FOO Bar Show on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Join in, drop us a line, and we'll fill it up like a couple of Foos. I've been Josie, signing off, saying, don't be a dick!
the grain. I never wanna let it go. A tragedy played out in stereo. Strike that chord with me again.